Hey, it's Dan. Welcome back. You're watching iAllegedly. And I've got Bob Kudla back again, who's clearly our go-to guy for stocks, guys. And I wanted to bring Bob on. We were talking early on about, getting started in 2023 and what people should do. And I thought the best thing to do would just be bring Bob on and let's just start asking him some questions. So
thank you.
Good to see you.
Yeah,
okay?
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, sir.
Yeah.
And, Bob's background, Bob's been doing Trade Genius since 2015. He's been trading for decades. And he was a Marine, and he hasn't been in the financial space for quite some time, worked for a lot of Fortune 500 companies, but really his knack is trading stocks. Okay, is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Okay. And one thing that I'm very lucky for is that I talk to everybody, and I have a lot of people, cool people on speed dial, and Bob's one of them. And what I want to do in this video is cover like where you think the economy's going, stock market's going in 3 months, 6 months, and a year. Sound good?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, but one thing I want to do before we get started is I want to, Bob was on last month, and Bob called the commodity spike, and Bob said you're going to start to see commodities shoot up, and you nailed it. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Okay. So as far as the stock market is concerned, do you think, any surprises since the first of the year?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of surprises. First of all, since we talked last, people expected the Santa rally. Santa didn't show up until last week.
Yeah.
And I think Santa was Russian, so we got the Russian Christmas. But I think that threw a lot of people off. We weren't expecting a Santa rally, but this move that we've had this week, going into the CPI report that came out, today, that they ran it up into that. And so now the expectation is now what's the Fed going to do?
Yeah.
And that's kind of and it was a really interesting chart. Maybe I'll send to you. You can do your own podcast on it. So there's an expectation issue here. The market thinks that the Fed's not going to hold firm. They think the Fed's going to fold, and they think the Fed's going to pause earlier than what the Fed said they're going to do. And see, here's what people have to understand. And I'll get to stocks in a second, but this is important because it sets the expectation, is that, the CPI prints are still in the, in the 6% range, but the fund rate are still in the 4% range. And you're not going to get them to stop until one of them crosses over the other.
Okay.
Okay. And then you're going to get a pause until you get the CPI prints coming down at 2%. And so our expectation is that the Fed is overly tight, but they're doing it on purpose. They want to kill the speculative fervor in the markets. They really want to push everybody into the bond market. Okay. They want to get people out of stocks. They want to get them in the bond market because the federal government's running such big debts. They need to have liquidity in the bond market. So what that means is that we're likely to get a pretty good dip in the stock market in the first quarter, maybe into the second quarter. And sometime probably late summer into the fall is I think we're going to come out of that haze. Then the Fed going to start rolling over, and then you're going to see that crisscross going into 2024 and going into the election season again. That's our working thesis. And so, but this first quarter, and usually first quarters are pretty rough. If January stays firm, February and March are usually pretty rough. Okay. You got to go with the seasonality, and then you trade with the trend until it's not your friend. And when you talk about commodities, is that this first spike is just a taste. Okay. So we're going to get a rotation out of tech, and we're going to get a rotation into hard assets.
When you say the rotation, do you think things are going to go? Do you think tech can have a turnaround? Do you think tech's going to have a real problem? Apple announced yesterday, hey, they're going to start making their own screens. They really want to get out of China. They really see manufacturing problems. They want to do what they can to fix that.
Yeah, that's all higher cost for Apple.
Yeah.
And, I don't know, we bought some Mac products for the company at the end of the month, last month, and they were cutting prices on them. Apple never cuts prices.
Right. That's things you've never seen before.
Never seen before.
I did a video a couple days ago about the fire sale of everything that's going on sale, and tech is going on sale. You're seeing streaming services. Amazon's dropping prices on certain things. We're seeing major changes right now that we haven't seen as far as lower prices on certain things.
Well, we just had a 1.6% reduction in e-commerce prices year over year. Now you have to understand there's two kinds of prices, right? It's stuff you need versus stuff you want. The stuff you want stuff is going down in price and it's going to remain, I think, under pressure. The things you need are still going up in price. And, and look at real estate. Dan and I are out here in California. 30% plus of the GDP in California is real estate and related activities.
Right.
And if sales plummet, you're not going to need a whole slew of people in the, support, escrow people, title people,
construction, home improvement, all the people, it's just like the auto industry. People don't realize, people think of car sales. Well, there's such a peripheral business around car sales. And when auto parts left places like Ohio, I mean, it just destroyed economy, it destroyed entire cities with that. And, somebody that worked in Michigan told me about, the Detroit plants and how they used to just be this spacious, like a football field, loaded with cars to the very end, and how not only did they go away, but they're just desolate now.
Yeah, and I have a customer that is really tuned in on the auto space as a peripheral. He's an OEM, and he said that the big three are starving the OEMs.
What's OEM? Say it.
Original equipment manufacturers. Okay. These are the people that produce they're basically the subcontractors to the big three, and they're keeping their inventory low to keep the prices up, but they're starving all the suppliers, and they're getting to a point where the suppliers saying, hey, no mas, either you give us higher returns, or we can't produce for you, or we'll produce for you at a loss, but we may go out of business. And so there's stress and fracture everywhere, and you got to understand, you're talking food inflation still high. Real estate,
which is not counted. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but which is not counted in our inflation numbers. I hate that energy prices and food prices are not included in our inflationary numbers. It's the things that affect us the most. It's the fact if you're going to go buy cheese and cheese is double in price, and now here in California, the Southern California Gas just announced to expect your gas prices to double in price this winter because of rain. It's ridiculous. So sorry.
Yeah, they for you guys that aren't in California, there's a separate spot market for California gas, and those guys didn't hedge right, and so we get the luxury of paying double next month. And but look, eggs are out of stock, dairy's down 13.8% year over year. Food inflation. See, that carries through everything. That carries through all the restaurants. It carries, and so what we're having is what's called knock-on effects that are going to all show up in 2023. That are unexpected. And so it's going to be a problem for the markets, and it's going to be a problem for the economy. At Trade Genius, we're telling people in our podcast that recession's here. It's just showing up one sector at a time, and the Fed is they're determined to break the market.
Let's do two things. You have a daily podcast that you guys do Monday through Friday on YouTube, the Trade Genius podcast. Stock picks, recommendations, things like that. And I'll leave a link below. And you also run Trade Genius, which is basically, I call it a trading academy, but just tell us a little bit about that too.
Yeah, so we've created a couple of very effective algorithms for trading the stock market and crypto markets. And what we do is we look at seasonality, and then inside of that, we look at what's called levels. And inside of that, we look at momentum. So we want to make sure we're in the right season for the sector that we're in, and then we look at, is it a buy to dip or sell to rip environment? And then beyond that, then are we getting momentum to make sure that the trade's going to pay for us? And in doing so, we created a series of indicators. Our clients have access to them, and then also we have chat rooms where they can communicate with themselves and with myself. And then we train them how to use it, and then we give trades out every day. And you can go to our website and you can see our trade results. And we've actually been smoking it since the beginning of December. And that's a humble brag if you don't mind. But we do pretty well.
Again, I love talking to you. And having you on speed dial, I'm very lucky. There's certain people in finance, and Bob is at the top of the heap, guys. I'm telling you, just to have access to him is great. But that's the cool thing about Trade Genius, is that a lot of times people sign up for these programs and they don't get access to you. So
yeah, and if you want, you easily get access to me. And then we have a VIP room where you can actually talk to me. But we put some discounts together for your listeners, Dan. Cool. We always do by the 14th. If you get anything that's non-bundled, use promo code winter 45% off. But if we put together 7 bundles, which is the best deal, 65% off already pre-bundled. Take advantage. What we charge for the service is nothing to what you get out of it. And, 1 or 2 trades pay for the year. And then, as you know, you can have access to my customer comments. You see them. And, we try to do right by people and really help them make money. And the most important thing is we put you in control, that, you have tools in which you can be an effective trader on your own over time.
That's great. That's great. And, let's talk now. I mentioned natural gas. Let's talk about natural gas. Do you think that, I don't believe a lot of things that are told to us. And I don't believe the thing that I don't understand about fuel. And I talked about this a couple of days ago. If you make gasoline and stick it in a gas tank at a service station, or you take natural gas and put it in a tank and the price goes up, why is the gas that's in the tank, why does that go up? You don't have to answer that. That's what's always been confusing. But do you think natural gas is going to spike? Do you think it's going to continue to go up this year? Is that going to be something that people should chase?
Yeah, this quarter it will be. I don't think people realized it, but it jammed up the first 9 months of this year, and then they drove it all the way back down to the beginning of 2022 pricing. But they did it through sleight of hand, where they just basically drained the storage out. They're trying to kill the futures markets. They're trying to kill Russia. But they're running into this little problem here in the next 2 months called winter. And,
which people don't realize. Guys, we had a week of rain here in California, and I was in Vegas last week, came here, and the ground is still wet, and that's a travesty here. So people don't realize and don't realize what to do when we get rain here. And that's the severe weather that we get. So you guys out there that have snow, this snow. I know people that write me and tell me it snows sometimes in late April and May, and they get crazy things like that. So we don't know anything like that here in California.
No, unless you go up to Mammoth Mountain and you have 50 feet of snow on the ground up there.
Great?
So
I hear it's going to be just an epic winter, and then the snowpack gets packed, but don't count on it yet. We're still in a drought. Okay.
Yeah, forever. Until they find a new thing for us to
until they
worry
raise
about.
the water prices on it. So
exactly.
Okay, so natural gas is good. So do you like it, natural gas ETFs and the ETFs that are like that, or is that not your bag?
No. I that's one of my favorite things to trade. So we're looking for an upcycle now, and we can actually show you in my library that we have that's available to anybody who subscribes. Is I give you a cheat sheet on how to trade these ultra ETFs the right way. So I could put
define an ultra ETF for the average.
Those are the 2 and 3x ETFs. Like they have 2 or 3 ETF for like natural gas, for oil, for the stock market.
Now there are ETFs that can bet that something's going to go up, and ETF that something can go down. And you got ultra ETFs that can bet that the stock market's going to go down against the S&P 500, commodities, whatever.
If you could think it, they have an ETF and they have an ultra ETF. But there's a trick. Most people do it the wrong way. And we'll show you the right way to do it, and you can't help but make money from it.
Okay.
But that's the tease. You got to join to get it.
Okay.
So
we talked about commodities too. I think that we're going to see a huge copper spike this year.
It's already happening.
Okay, and I think it's right before us. And the problem is everybody wants to go, we got to have green cars and green energy and green tech. But going to CES and talking about this and talking to these manufacturers is, why would you ask me about commodities, and isn't this car beautiful? And showing the chassis with one big battery, and you ask lithium questions and you ask commodities questions, and they just don't get it. But I don't think that they realize that the scarcity of some of the stuff. I've heard that there's a 50 million ton shortfall for copper right now between now and 2030, 30 or 50. It's an absolute ton of copper.
Yeah, we trade FCX, which is copper and gold, and that thing has gone up $7, and we just closed it now because it's basically a China opening trade, and when China opens, they're going to suck all the commodities over into China, and Saudi Arabia just announced today that they're putting together a massive fund to basically buy up mines to mine those things. Nickel, copper, lithium, and
cobalt,
probably cobalt. And so they're basically everybody's going to be hoarding this stuff. And so
that's going to make the price of an electric vehicle
impossible to make return on.
Yeah. And talking to an insurance man about those vehicles, about the accidents, there's crumple zones built in cars that when a car crashes and the front's designed to move a certain way, in an accident in the passenger side, and they're seeing things with these electric vehicles that they haven't seen in years gone by, because side swiping can rip a battery apart, and you can't replace half the battery. You got to replace the whole undercarriage of the car. And we're seeing crazy things like that. And again, going to consumer electronics or talking to these car manufacturers, like, oh, how often is that going to happen? Well, often enough that the insurance companies are concerned about it. So
yeah, I mean, I did the ROI on. I don't own one because I can't make the ROI work.
Yeah.
And so you have to drive a certain amount of miles a year to make it worth your while. And you really can't pick these cars up used, because you're going to run into the buzzsaw of the battery pack.
Yes.
Replacement. So they really screwed the pooch on this. The best thing they could have did was more like Prius type of hybrid model, but they didn't do it because they're so hell bent on destroying the fossil fuel industry around the world that we're going to end up shooting ourselves in the head instead.
Yeah, it's too bad. It's too bad. But again, that's part of the economy, and people want to do this, and they think that they're contributing to their part of it. But there's just going to be a massive shortage, which shortages makes things more expensive. And if you're into that, if you're into commodities, silver, it's just going to go up. But the next thing is, I got to talk to you about gold. I have seen crazy gold predictions over the last 45 days, or even Robert Kiyosaki was talking about $3,000 gold. A guy came out from SPACs Financials, I've never heard of, and talking about how gold could go to $4,000 an ounce. Do you think we could see crazy things like that?
Yeah, I think when things get bad enough, they will reprice our debt in gold by basically lifting the price of gold. So I'll throw a number at you. It's not going to happen, but I'll throw a number. But to replace all the debt with gold is $86,000. So
really,
yeah. So that's how far we've gone.
$86,000 an ounce.
Yeah. So that's how far we've gone from being able to pay off our debt. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting. I don't have a price target for gold. Silver will move before gold will. So that's the first thing I'm going to watch.
Silver needs to. It's so it's been suppressed for so long, and I love silver. But again, if you look at the manufacturing of silver and the uses, it is, and it's the scarcity of it is crazy. When you start doing the math on it, there is not enough silver out of the ground to meet the demand that's out there, guys.
If the futures markets blow up, everything will double. So wherever you have silver around 20, silver will go to 40. You have gold around $1,800 an ounce. It'll go to 3,600. Those are not outrageous. We've seen it with platinum. In fact, we just started trading platinum. That's another commodity we didn't talk about last month.
What's platinum doing right now? Where's it at?
I trade platinum. I trade the platinum miners, so I don't know. I just watch the miners pop.
So you like the mining stocks? You like metal stocks? Do you believe in staying out of certain areas, like different continents and problems with and again, not to bag on South America or anything like that, but it's certain areas that you want to stay out of? Or do you like the mining stocks that are in North America?
Yeah. So I'm an Anglosphere when it comes to owning anything. So it has to be in a legal environment that we can relatively trust. Okay. So if it's in Australia, if it's in Canada, if it's in the United States, I know is that's where I want to be buying. So I like silver companies that are in the US. There's Hecla Miner. We talked about this one before. It just popped over $6. Really beautiful move, 16% move in the last month. There's a copper Canadian cobalt company. It's a small cap out there. Uranium's moving,
and that was my next thing, was uranium. So okay, guys, nuclear energy needs uranium, and the problem with this is that the wind doesn't blow all the time, the sun doesn't shine all the time, but nuclear reactors can create energy, and it's been effective for many, many years. And yes, there's problems with it. There's problems with everything, but uranium, you're a huge believer in uranium.
Huge believer, and it came out of the gates smoking this year. Because look, they're building all these nuke plants, and they don't care if they have to pay 3 or 4 times the current price because it's nothing compared to the price they've already paid for the plant and the equipment. But yeah, it's gonna rock and roll. And I was just reading before you walked up, I was just reading an article by Sprout. That's a grocery store here. Sprout in uranium. He basically stores it.
Mhm.
He said it's the metal for the millennials, which is huge because when those guys move, they move in packs. They're the silver bets guys, and they'll start lifting the price of uranium. And look, uranium should be $200. Like 100 pound. It's trading at 50. So
Wow.
uranium is way undervalued, and it's gonna rip. And there's a stock out there called UU. I encourage you to own it because it's being protected by the U.S. government.
4 U's?
4 U's. I call it Quad U.
Quad U.
And
okay.
then so I own it. It's already moved from 3 to 11. It went back down, and now it's moving back up to $8. And as uranium moves, it's totally leveraged to uranium.
Okay.
And it has rhodium too, which is a very, very rare metal that's absolutely going to be required for next technology. So that's a freebie, but that's not
anything. Okay. Speaking of freebies, I've had people write me, "Oh my God, Bob mentioned this and it was great." Anything else? Anything? Any other direction that you could throw a bone to anybody right now that you'd make a recommendation of? We're talking commodities. We're talking heating. People are freezing. I get people that write me. I had phone calls with people from Michigan last week, and it was 20 degrees, and they were happy with that. It sounds like hell, guys, but
short FANG stocks.
Okay.
EV stocks, except for Tesla, are going out of business. All of them.
So you think Facebook, Apple, Google, and Nvidia,
Microsoft.
They're
all Google. Look, Google's being affected by this Chat GPT thing. That's the AI. You're going to see a decentralization of search, and Google makes all their money from search results and ad revenue.
Guys, a lot of companies, and we were talking about this, and my medical business that's on the block right now, the value of the company is all the data, all the doctors that have been there, all the people that are speaking, their emails, their contacts, the phone numbers, everybody that's attended my events, and Dan too. But what's that worth? But the advantage is the data is worth a fortune. Google, when you search something, my brother and his wife love to play this game where before they turn the computer on, before they go and search something, they'll start talking about like, hey, work boots. And then they'll go online and search, and they'll have work boots ads on their thing. So that's the big deal is all that stuff.
Yeah, and you're going to see that get blown up. And so you're going to see Meta is basically going to get blown up, and Twitter has already went private, but you also have Netflix they have no moat. And the reason why that's important, in and of itself, that's okay, those are individual trades, but they are the major portion of what's called the SPY index.
Yes.
And the way it's capitalized.
I hope I get my talk show deal prior to Netflix going down. So let's keep it.
or his Netflix, he'll bring Netflix back up. So, they're called market cap weighted stocks, and so as they go down, they make the whole stock market go down more than it normally would. And people are like, why is the market going down so much? My company's doing well because they're in the index. And as the index goes down, everything goes down with it. And that's the one thing that people are not paying attention to. When that rolls over, it rolls over hard. And the other thing, I don't know if you guys have been hearing this phrase out there called zero DTE. It's called 0 days to expiration. It's basically now you can trade options every day of the week, in the SPY or SPX.
Wow.
And what it's doing is putting massive leverage back into the system. And if they trip on one of these, you're going to get another Volmageddon, which means a flash crash.
Mm-hmm.
So those things are not priced in anywhere. And you'll see those. But those will be opportunities to buy when you get those big dumps like that. But those are some downside things that people need to pay attention to.
One thing that we've talked about is living a conservative and frugal lifestyle. And you're a very successful guy, but you don't believe in excess debt. You don't believe in the flashy cars. You don't believe in wasting money. And that's the one thing that we really preach on this channel is that if people are in debt, get yourself out of debt. And, it's low and slow to make yourself wealthy in the stock market. You're trading, you can make a lot of money, trading stocks, But I also tell people, don't borrow money to do this.
Nope.
Get yourself out of personal debt. It's the most important thing. And I'm telling you, I have people that have bought cars and paid $10,000 over invoice, and talked to my insurance man. He goes, Dan, as soon as they total that car, they're not getting the extra 10 grand. That's not going to happen. They're going to get the fair market value for that car, and you're going to see problems like that. But people need to get their finances in order.
Yeah, look, I tell people, I'll tell you, you grind your way to wealth. Okay, you can't. If you know, the worst thing that can happen to you is that your first couple of trades you make a lot of money because you think that's normal. And so trading's hard because it requires a lot of discipline and following a process and following a path and not be greedy. When you get greedy, that's when you get your head handed to you.
Absolutely. My father took me to the racetrack when I was a kid, before I was 18, and here's your $10, you get to bet, and I won that day. The $10 turned into like $36, and when you're, gosh, I was young. I was like probably 12, 13. That was a lot of money. And he said, this is the single worst thing I've done as a parent for you because you won. It's not like this every day. So I agree.
Yep.
And it's low and slow, and people treat this as a stock market, like the meme stocks and all the shenanigans that you've seen.
Yeah, look, this is a business. I've been doing it a long time. Just so people know too, you have to be frugal when you retire at 46.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and to me, time and control is more important than wealth. Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, that's great. Well, okay. How do you want to close this out? Because again, I just want to, do you think we're going to see any major landmine out there that people need to look at right now for 2023?
Yeah, I think there's a derivative, which means option betting's getting out of control. I don't think we've seen the last of a Russian offensive.
Okay.
I think they're underestimating food costs, and I think people are poo-pooing the chance of going into a recession. And right.
Bob, mathematically,
we're in it.
No, plausible recession. I mean, I just want them to come up with a new name, because plausible was the one last week in Vegas that everybody got a kick out of. Even the crows don't believe it. So,
yeah.
So guys, thank you, Bob. Don't forget to take a look at Trade Genius. The link will be below, and the discount code and everything will be there for you. But again, thank you, sir. And I always appreciate your advice, and you're awesome. So. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, take a look at Trade Genius today, and guys, onward and upward. We'll see you very soon.
Great, thank you.